Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to do some new stuff that I've picked up in 2021. I think this might be maybe the second video in 2021 I've done of like new pickups and stuff. So without further ado, let's do this. From 1982, we have Billy Idol and his self-titled full-length debut called Billy Idol. Very clever title, Mr. Idol. So this was his full-length debut because before this, he put out a EP called Don't Stop. So this came out in 82, but then they reissued it in 1983 to add Dancing with Myself. And I guess the version that's on here is actually recorded with Generation X, his former band. But I guess maybe, I don't really know what the deal was. Maybe Dancing with Myself started getting a lot of airplay. And they decided to re-release this and add it on there since it was becoming a big hit. I mentioned, I guess in the last episode I did of like 2021 new pickups and stuff, I went to the record store called Low Fidelic, which was only the second record store I'd physically been inside since the pandemic started. This is the third. I picked this up. This is the third record store that I've been in since the pandemic started. It's a place called Vinyl Dinosaur down in Bayville, New Jersey. I'd never been there before. He had posted online, he had this certain record that I wanted, which I'm saving for another episode. But I went down there to pick up that record, and while I was there, since it was the first time I'd ever been there, I just was kind of looking through stuff and was looking through his CDs. He has a lot of vinyl, well, obviously the name of the store, but he has a pretty good selection of CDs and pretty cheap prices for them as well. And I grabbed this because I didn't have it. I like Billy Idol. Up until what the hell was the name of that Cyberpunk record was just, I don't know what he was thinking with that one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it seemed like one of those records that maybe years later we would kind of appreciate it and like realize like, oh, that was better than we thought. But I still have tried giving that a listen a couple of times, and it's still just not really very great. But I didn't have this record, and he had it there in the store, and because I was buying this other vinyl that was not expensive, about what that vinyl would cost, and again, I'm saving that for another episode, but he just threw this in for free. I mean, I think he wanted $3 for it, and he just was like, I'll just throw it in for free, which was pretty cool. But this has White Wedding on it, Hot in the City, which is one of my favorite tunes, Love Calling. But the other tunes, I'm not that familiar. I think I started listening to this a little bit the other night, and there was one or two other ones that kind of were catching my ear, but I'm not really that familiar with like, these other albums by Billy Idol that I don't have, the album tracks, I know the singles, but so it'll be kind of cool to dig into this one and check it out. From 2020, we get Narrow Adventure, 1981 to 1983. This is a digital album I have. It was available on cassette through Burger Records, and if you're not familiar with Burger Records, a lot of their stuff was released on cassette, but they had quite the downfall last year. They shut business down completely. They had some issues with some like sexual harassment stuff or whatever. You can Google and you'll find out all that you need to know about that. But Narrow Adventure put out this digital and cassette only release through them not long before all that happened, and I think I don't know, something about the cover, something intrigued me about this, and I remember going online and listening to one or two tracks, and I thought it was kind of interesting, so I decided to buy the digital release from the band directly. I think I got it from Bandcamp, so the money went straight to the band. It didn't go to Burger Records at all, but it's kind of interesting, kind of like I don't know if you'd call it like post-punk or something like that, maybe. I don't know, something like that. But there were two sisters who kind of were the nucleus of the band. After this band, they went on to form a band called Wednesday Week, which was kind of alternative, maybe a little more pop sounding. This record, 1981 to 1983, I haven't dug too deep into. I've heard some of it, and there's a couple of tracks I like. There's some stuff that I'm not too crazy about. Some sound quality, some of it sounds like kind of demo-ish, but it's kind of interesting, kind of cool. I would be kind of curious to check out Wednesday Week, because I remember hearing one song by them that I thought was all right. I'd be curious to hear what like that whole record sounds like, 1978, we get Johnny Thunder's solo debut, I guess. I guess he was still with the Heartbreakers at the time he recorded this, but and a couple of them are involved in this record, but I guess he released this as a solo record. Came out in 78 through Sire. This is a reissue. It's got a handful of bonus tracks on here. The one tune that I know of this is You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory. Heard that pretty recently in a movie, and I was like, oh yeah, I should pick up that CD, So went digging around, found it fairly cheap, and decided to give it a try. I haven't listened to it yet, though. I literally just got it today. I think I just watched a documentary about him. Maybe that's where I heard the tune, and it made me think of picking up his record. But there's a couple of films floating around out there about him. But this is going to be interesting to check out. Because like I said, I have, the Heartbreakers album, LAMF. That's pretty good. And there's some random Heartbreaker tunes that I have on some compilations. But none of these songs I'm that familiar with, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. From 2009, we get Kudrow and their album Lando. This is another digital-only release, no physical thing for me to show you. I bought this year, but I had one of the tracks going back years ago, because their album, so this I think was actually, there is maybe a physical version of this. It might be like a 7-inch that was released, like it is an EP with a couple tracks on it. I think they might have released a 7-inch of this, but I got the one tune, Commotion, from a Ernest Jennings record company, like free compilation that they emailed me, back in like the mid 2000s or like 2008, 2009. There were a lot of these like smaller record labels that would, email you like a little sampler, compilation. And there was I found a lot of cool bands on there, and this was one of them. And then just this year, I don't know, maybe that song came up on my iPhone or something, and I was like, yeah, that was a good tune. And I looked up and saw that it was just sort of this one release, and it was on Bandcamp, I believe, and I just was like, oh, let me pick it up, why not, and it's not bad, it's kind of good. It's kind of this kind of industrial, kind of punk kind of sound to it, I guess, is what I would kind of refer to it as. Or you might just call it rock and roll. I don't know. I don't know you that well, but maybe that's what you call it. But anyways, that's Kudrow. I don't know. They were from Brooklyn. I don't know. Seemed like guys who were in various bands. So I don't know what happened to the band or why it dissolved or why they never did anything else, but they didn't. 1993 brings us the Muffs' debut album. This has been reissued on Drastic Plastic Records, who I have a reissue they did for the Agent Orange debut, which I think was pretty good, so I'm sure this is going to be pretty good. I just got this a couple days ago, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it. It's an awesome album. The Muffs were one of the greats. Loved them. Obviously, we no longer have Kim Shattuck around. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2019. But I'm glad I got this. I had one other vinyl record by the Muffs, and then they reissued a few of them, and then they went out of print, and then they were like really expensive, but I think now they're all coming back into print. So when I saw this and it was, I don't know, maybe 25 bucks, I was like, let me grab that now before I regret it later. But this album's just awesome. I mean, the first three Muffs albums are all, I think, perfect. This one's got Lucky Guy, Saying Goodbye, Everywhere I Go, Better Than Me, From Your Girl, Not Like Me, Baby Go Round, Big Mouth is awesome, Don't Waste Another Day, All for Nothing. I mean, great tunes. If you're not familiar with them, I've said this about them a million times, but if you're not familiar with them at all, you should really go out and give them a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. You know, it's punk, alternative, rock, great stuff. She wrote some awesome tunes, Kim Shattuck, and this is when they were a 4-piece, and then they would become a 3-piece after this. But great record. You should pick it up. I believe it's just black vinyl. Nothing fancy here. It's black vinyl, if you saw that, hopefully. There's like a little insert in there and everything, but that's the Muffs and their debut. From 1990, we get Ice House and Code Blue. It's funny, I liked Ice House in like the mid 80s, 86, 87. The album Measure for Measure, which I've talked about on other episodes. And then they put out an album called Man of Colors, which was really popular. And it was their biggest success in the United States. And that came out in, I think, 87 or like 87 or 88, I think. I don't know, maybe even 89. I don't know, 88, whatever it was. And it was pretty popular here. And then after that, they released like a compilation called Great Southern Land. And then I never really heard anything about them after that. And this came out in 90. I don't know why. It wasn't very successful. It wasn't successful here at all. I don't even know if it was released here, but it was moderately successful in Australia. They're from Australia. But it's funny that this never crossed my my path, because I would have thought I would have at least heard about this. I was listening to a podcast recently called The Hustle, and the leader of Ice House, Iva Davies, was on that, and he was talking about this record, and that's kind of what tipped me off about it. And they played maybe 1 or 2 songs from it. It sounded kind of interesting, so I decided to pick it up. And I've listened to some of this, and it's not bad. It's kind of maybe a concept record in a way, because it's about this crash that happened in the South Pacific somewhere, and Iva Davies, he was saying on the podcast, I guess maybe it was his uncle. I want to say, I don't think it was his grandfather. I think it was his uncle had been part of this crash, so he had a sort of connection with it. There's a handful of songs in here that are kind of related to that moment in Australian history. The one tune that really stands out is Charlie Sky. That one is about his uncle, whose name I believe was Charlie. I mean, that would make sense, right? But it's got all these the booklet's got all these little article clippings and stuff having to do with the random stories in here and everything. But kind of interesting. I really kind of am getting into this, because like I said, I wasn't familiar with this at all. And the CD case has got like this kind of, if you can see it, this image of like a pilot that's kind of there's the booklet cover, and if you slide it in, so it's printed on the actual jewel case. So if your jewel case, it's cool, but if your jewel case broke, then you'd be kind of screwed. But kind of interesting, to check out this new kind of Ice House record that I wasn't that familiar with. Finally, from 2008, we get Holy Hell Independent Pleasure Club on vinyl. Some more vinyl. Been trying to cut back on vinyl, and here we go. I've just added 2 to my collection. These guys are kind of like I guess like electronica sort of sound. I first heard them on a music video show in like the later 2000s that I've talked about before, called New York Noise. For an hour they play all these music videos and have interviews and stuff. It was great. I loved that show. I think there's some clips on YouTube you can find, but I discovered a lot of bands on watching that show. I would tape it, I would DVR it every week, and then I'd just watch it, and if a song wasn't that crazy about it, I'd just fast forward to the next one. And that's how I discovered these guys, because they played their video for Cool Town Rock, and really liked it. And I don't think this is available on CD. So back then I was buying CDs. I hadn't really started collecting vinyl again. And so I just never picked it up. And then just I don't know, maybe in January or February, I thought of this band and I looked it up and saw the vinyl was available and got it fairly cheap, I think, and it was brand new when I got it. So I picked it up and I like it. I'm really kind of digging it. Elemental, I think, is pretty good. County Fair Part 2, I like. Cool Town Rock, of course. Backwater's really, really good. It was kind of cool because when I bought this, obviously this came out a long time ago, and it comes with a little download code to get, you know, the digital tracks for your phone or iPod or whatever. And obviously when I got this, the code was no longer good. So I reached out to the band, I don't know who it was, maybe the record label. I forget who it was, but I reached out to somebody and just said, you know, hey, I bought this and I know the code's so old. I'm sure it doesn't work anymore. I'm sure that's the way it is. But, you know, if there's any way I could get them. And they were really cool. They were like, no problem, you know, give me a couple days. I'll dig it up and send it to you. And they did. And I really appreciate that, you know, so I can listen to it, you know, in my car or whatever. But pretty good. Like I said, if you like maybe electronica, stuff like that, you might want to give these guys a try. I think they maybe put out one other record besides this, but I don't know anything off of that. So that is it for this time. I will see you another time. I hope you like the video, subscribe, like, follow, whatever, you know, all that nonsense. And I really appreciate it. Let me know what you think about these records. If you're familiar with any of them, give me a heads up about any tracks I should check out that you really like on them, or tell me that you hate them all. I don't care, whatever. What are we gonna do, right? So anyways, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Later.